we're just going to talk about the awesome stage program that y'all set up with Kraft Heinz. Hi everyone, I'm Silverman, and we have a special episode today where I would love to recap for you the amazing trip that I just had to Chicago, where I got to spend time with the James Beard Foundation's Legacy Network in the Kraft Heinz test kitchen. It was really an amazing experience. I got to interview some awesome people who are both mentors and mentees in the program, as well as folks from the James Beard Foundation and Kraft Heinz. So this is the Restaurant Roundtable. Pull up a chair and let's have some fun. I'm here with Shamika Leacock from the James Beard Foundation Legacy Network, and we're just going to talk about the awesome stage program that y'all set up with Kraft Heinz. So if you want to introduce yourself to the folks at home and tell us about what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chef BJ. My name is Shamika. I am the Associate Director of Community at the James Beard Foundation, and I manage our program called the Legacy Network at the Foundation, in addition to a new iteration of the program or extension of the program called the Legacy Stage Program. These programs are funded by Heinz. They are one of many initiatives and programs at our foundation where we get to support chefs and members of the culinary community. Particularly, Legacy is a virtual program actually for chefs of color and other culinary professionals who are looking for support. You know, we identified at the organization there's a critical gap when it comes to chefs of color and other culinary folks of color in terms of their ability to progress or succeed really in the field, in the industry. And so we've developed this program called Legacy Network to sort of support that.
So you have a long history of connecting people with cool experiences and programs.
It's my favorite thing to do. I always want to work on behalf of others, and this has been a great experience. Working with chefs, working with winemakers, journalists to understand their passion, their motivation, their commitment, and sort of being able to be part of the foundation and guide them in that way. It's been really great. So the Legacy program does that. Our resources at the foundation, our different initiatives that I'm involved with all connect the dots for that.
Before we get too far into it, let me tell you what a stage is. It actually comes from a French term, stagiaire, which literally means apprentice. And they actually have stagiaires in hospitals and stuff like that, where you apprentice under essentially a master who is awesome at their craft. As it translates to kitchens, a stage can be many different things. At its base, it's going to work for someone, typically for free, to either gain knowledge or to try out for a position. So in my life, I've staged at many restaurants. A lot of them were what I call for fun, where I'm not looking for a job. I just literally want to see the way that a restaurant that I idolize works, or a cuisine that I've never seen before. And in my day, you showed up at a restaurant's back door pretty much, and with your knives, and you said, hey, I'm here, I'm hoping to do a stage for the day. If you were lucky, the chef had an email and you were able to reach out to him ahead of time to plan it. But when I was in culinary school in New York, I tried to go down to the city every weekend and do a 2-day stage at a different restaurant. So I've staged at 2 Michelin star places, I've staged at hole-in-the-wall taverns, and that's one side of it. The other side is typically when you apply for a job, you want to go do a working stage, or a trail sometimes they'll call it, where you go and you work in the restaurant for sometimes 3 hours, sometimes a whole shift just before you're hired to see if it's a good fit. It's really hard as a cook or a chef to do an interview and know if you're going to be a good fit in that kitchen. You want to see the culture. They want to see from you how your knife work is, if you can follow directions, if you can follow recipes. It's a really typical thing at our restaurant at Chapman's Eat Market specifically. We'll bring people in for a 1-day stage before we hire them. We'll do an interview first, and then if we like them and they move on to the next stage, they'll come in for a stage.
We see the stage program as an extension of the Legacy Network. And it is unique, I think, in your experience and the experience of a lot of chefs who've been brought up in the industry. This particular stage program, it's funded by Heinz, which we really appreciate their support and their commitment to sort of equity. But when it comes to the stage program, what we essentially do is provide an outlet for the alum, the advisees of the Legacy Network, to be paired with a JBF recognized chef. And the program has allowed us to cover the cost for both the stage host, the chef who's hosting the stagiaire and the stagiaire, including their travel and accommodations. And I think it's really important that we are able to do that. It's reducing the financial barriers, right? So some of our stagiaires had the opportunity to stage in a city that they don't reside in. We had the opportunity to work with Chef Erick Williams, who's from Virtue Restaurant right here in Chicago.
I've eaten there before. It's a fantastic
restaurant. I'm
restaurant.
Gonna go this evening, so I'm really excited, actually.
It's been a little while since I've been there, but the food is amazing. And we were talking off camera earlier, but soul food is like my absolute favorite thing, and he is just crushing it there.
Yeah.
So,
And he's a JBF awarded chef, so being able to stage in a restaurant like his own, a fine dining restaurant, is, I would call, sort of a once-in-a-life opportunity. And so working with Chef Erick Williams, who sort of kicked off the stage program this past year, was great for stagiaire Jared Thomas, who I know you'll be speaking with. And then the second stage was in New York City with Chef Farial over at Hab and Mar, a restaurant owned by Chef Marcus Samuelson, and Chef Meijin staged with him. And our third stage just wrapped up back in January with Chef Geoff and Chef Chrystal, who's the owner of Wahpepah's restaurant in Oakland, California.
Wow.
So again, just sort of the opportunity to be able to design a stage program that's really unique. Most stages, I think, historically have been working the line in the kitchen, right? This particular stage really allows the stagiaire an entry to every facet of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So not just working the line, but also learning about front of house, being able to learn about accounting, marketing, what it takes to really operate a business, thinking about sort of management strategies, leadership. How do you get to the place where you have this successful business? And so this is a week-long opportunity for 3 stages this past year.
That's amazing. That was, I can't even tell you how awesome it would have been when I was staging if people had let me behind the curtain to see how the front of the house works. Normally I was peeling carrots in the basement for 8 hours and hoping that I got to see some of the food. That's really amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing for our industry. And
Thank you.
This is a passion of mine as well, is to give opportunities to people who maybe haven't seen things, and getting to go to a different city, getting to have somebody mentor you in that way is just really incredible. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I think that one thing that we recognize at the James Beard Foundation is that we're really listening to what chefs and those in the industry needs, and those are evolving. And so the program is going to continue to grow, and we're going to make shifts and changes as we need to make sure that we're supporting the industry.
It's an ever-evolving industry, that's for sure.
It is, yeah.
And when you're pairing up a candidate with a chef, are they normally in the same city, or are you sometimes relocating people to do this?
Yeah, that's, I think, the really interesting part about the program. The fact that it's virtual means that we can really open up the program to anyone across the United States. So while my goal and our goal is always to try to pair folks who are in close proximity to get to each other, it actually works out where we could have an advisee in Houston paired with someone who's in California. So the beauty of technology allows them to sort of work together, and oftentimes they sometimes have an opportunity to meet.
That's awesome. And the ultimate goal of this is to find a job placement for people at the end of it, or is it just to further their career knowledge so that they can take the next step?
Yeah, I think it's more about furthering their professional goals in the industry. Our participants are already extremely motivated. Those who are advisees, as I mentioned, are younger in terms of industry experience, but truly motivated and want to stay in the industry. So it's really about sort of helping them, guiding them through the course of the program to further their career goals. So most of our participants are asked to identify some goals that they want to either begin or accomplish by the end of the program. And that can range anywhere from finalizing a business plan, developing a pop-up series, or learning how to best pitch to investors for a CPG product.
Being a chef is a lot more than cooking, I can say that. I think that being a good leader of people, understanding what people want out of a position, and making sure that they're afforded the opportunity to grow in those ways, but also being a part of a larger team. Every position, every job in a restaurant is equally as important, whether it's a porter, a dishwasher, a food runner. the head chef, the lead bartender, it's all equally important because every single piece needs to fit together. So as the restaurant owner, it's our job to kind of make sure that everybody's in a spot that they can be successful, that their job is clearly defined to them, and they're getting the things that they need to nourish their growth in this industry. And the first step of that growth is being able to see many different situations in restaurants. So that's kind of where stages kind of come into play. I've done many stages in my life for many different reasons, which we can talk about momentarily. And we host stages at the restaurant all the time for, again, a host of different reasons. But a big point of it is to make sure that everybody is being put in a position that they can be successful when they're in the restaurant. I mean, mentorship in the kitchen is kind of the most important thing. I've had a lot of mentors in my life, and some of them I didn't necessarily learn all the best things from, but I do like to say that a big part of learning in restaurants is what not to do. Those are the people who really shape the way that you see the industry, that shape the way that you see food. If you're lucky, you have a mentor that allows you to ask questions, to bounce ideas off of. And I feel like if anyone feels like I'm their mentor, one thing that I know for sure that they feel is that I want to talk about food with them. I want them to understand the way that I think about the way that things piece together, and I want them to take that and push it forward, push the idea forward. Tell us about the impact of the stage program, both on the stages and also on the mentors.
Yeah, so I think that they differ depending on the stagiaire and the stage host. For our stagiaires, I conduct post-interviews with all of the stagiaires just to get feedback on their experience, but also to how best develop the program going forward. And Meijin, who's one of the stagiaires, talked a little bit about the impact of her experience working with Chef Ferial and the front of house managers. At Lamar, they are a women-led team. And she really, I think, took notice and was inspired by how they operated amongst the staff, how supportive they were of each other. And for all of our stagiaires, their ultimate goal is to have their own brick and mortar restaurant at some point. And I think that's why the stage experience is so valuable for them. But I think for her, she really took away how to operate a business in terms of your staffing structure, how to best support the team. And that was just one example of one of the benefits for her. When it comes to our stage host, in all three cases of our stage host, Chef Ferial, Chef Erick Williams, and Chef Chrystal, they've never actually implemented a stage program. And Chef Chrystal's feedback was, this was a great experience. I now know or have an idea how I might want to implement a similar program at her restaurant. So I think that the takeaways differ for everyone, but I think it's a lasting impact. I think our stagiaires now have a better direction of where they want to go when developing their own restaurants just from this week-long experience. So I think those are some of the benefits. I know they'll tell you more about what it's been for them.
Today, I am really excited to introduce Elena Terry from Wildberry in Wisconsin. Just wanted to give you the floor to introduce yourself, what it is that you do, and how'd you get involved with the James Beard Foundation?
Awesome. Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for today, too, getting to see some familiar faces. So I'm Elena Terry. I'm the executive chef and founder of a nonprofit organization named Bearies. We do community outreach, education, advocacy, agriculture, everything around food in our tribal communities, but not exclusive to tribal communities.
That's awesome. So how did you get involved with the James Beard Foundation and the mentorship program?
So the James Beard Foundation reached out to me. Wildberries really is based on Culinary mentorship program. And they asked if I would be willing to be an advisor in this new program that they had coming up called the Legacy Network, which was for BIPOC culinarians, not exclusive to chefs. And I was like, absolutely, any way that I can help support my community and that being like the food industry, I'm down, sign me up.
How many people have come through your program? Like how many mentees do you have at this point?
So from my cohort, I've been able to work directly with 4 of the advisees and also some of the advisors who have become very good friends of mine in the industry. I think with our initial cohort, I'm pretty close with almost everybody that we went through the program with.
Yeah, you've been giving a lot of hugs since we've
it's just like feels good to see family again.
Yeah. What does your cooking and Wild Berries mean to you as far as your community and bringing people into the process?
So Wild Berries began as a culinary mentorship program for individuals in our community who were overcoming alcohol and other drug abuse issues or emotional trauma through the healing power of like food as medicine. But we really took the philosophy that it is undeniably nutritious, but like the medicine comes from us being like this igniter, the way we interact with each other, the energetic exchange when you're around people and spaces sharing a meal, or when you're out in the garden cultivating what it really truly means to be grounded in a space. And with our ancestral foods and our ancestral lands, you know, the healing journey really started with me and going back to this way of life and saying like, if this is my journey to be by my food and I want to be a chef, then I have to trust that putting them together will be a space that I'm creating where I can heal, and maybe I can show others how to do that.
Are there other ways that you've been involved in the James Beard Foundation?
Yes, I was able to cook for the Good Food for Good and bring in additional mentees that we have that are working in other programs. And then this past year, I was able to do a dinner at the platform by James Beard Foundation, where I was able to bring in 2 of my Legacy Network mentees to come and work with me. So the relationship is ongoing, and it just keeps expanding the resources and the ones that I'm able to bring in, and not only teach them how to work in the kitchen and these spaces for a day, but getting the time to have these beautiful exchanges while we're in those spaces. Like, it just continues to build these hopefully long-lasting relationships with each other.
It is funny getting to do like guest chef dinners and stuff when you're on a cutting board next to someone for like 6 hours straight.
You learn a lot about a person.
You make this really weird, like friendly connection. By the time the dinner's over, it's like you've known each other for 2 years. But I really do feel like we're all kindred spirits at the end of the day. And you know, no matter where you are in the food world, all that we want to do is make people happy, make people healthy, and create a better world for all of us. Like, what opportunities do you wish that you had that you're able to give people now coming through your kitchen?
I say when I was coming up, you know, being able to understand how to operate a small business, I was very fortunate because I worked for Wahpepah Chimics, and I had an amazing chef who was a mentor that taught me the financial literacy, that taught me how to cost out recipes. You know, as I grew older, the gap is now you're on your own. But, you know, the foundation has been a good piece of that. You know, I have done numerous things with the James Beard Foundation over the last couple of years. I've done Taste 20. I did a boot camp, which is amazing, talk about financial literacy and also the acumen of a restaurant. But then also doing that in our restaurants too. And believe it or not, you know, like our cooks, our team, they come from different walks of life, so they have different things that they teach it, that they learn. But being able to now transform a lot of what I do and like doing events like this, you know, and I was telling Daryl, like he and I've cooked together now in the last few years. It's like taking what we do in a restaurant and all you're doing is setting it up inside of a space like this. We're not doing anything different than we do in a restaurant. That regular recipes are the same. We may plate it differently, but how we execute is the same way at the same time. And when we talk about the literacy behind that, I wish someone did teach me the consistency behind it, but I get on my team about being consistent and same thing we do every single day because people appreciate that.
Daryl being here in the kitchen with you today, I was just wondering if you could introduce Daryl and you all could talk about the experience that you've had working for chefs and how you got into the industry.
Sure, so Daryl West, we've been working together a little bit over 2 years, starting a restaurant in Southside Chicago called Brownsville Winery. Daryl started out as a dishwasher, then worked his way up to a prep cook and a line cook. When I opened Etc., he was one of the first people that I called. Daryl is very dependable, very knowledgeable, keeps his head down, or as he tells me all the time, Chef, I'm ready to work, I get to work. He has been not only a big part of my career in growing up, but when I look at, opening a restaurant and we talk about, legacy and teaching and training, Daryl's been a big part of that. We've done numerous offsite events together, including this one. We did a big dinner last week. He has definitely been not only just a really good cook, but a really good brother, a really good friend, and I'm definitely excited to see him continuously grow, and glad he's part of my team.
Can you explain the history of the programs? How long have you been doing them?
Yeah, absolutely. So Well, JBF, I should start, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I think we're most known for the JBF Awards, but our organization has lots of programs and initiatives. And so the Legacy Network was founded about 4 years ago in 2021 to provide, again, culinary professionals, especially chefs, with the opportunity to engage with each other. I think we identified that chefs of color essentially could use mentorship and training and resources. And the way we've done that through this program is to pair them up with advisors or mentors. And so our advisees are typically those who are emerging in the industry, those who typically have less than 5 years experience, but are really motivated, really committed, really want to be in this industry. And so through our virtual program, we meet monthly over the course of 7 months. And in addition to being paired with an advisor, that person is usually a chef or an owner who has been in the industry for a really long time. They not only are paired together, but then we also provide educational training to really look at topics that affect the industry. So our trainings and workshops are around marketing, in addition to financial literacy. These are all really imperative topics and areas that we think that our participants can benefit from.
That's awesome to hear. I totally agree with all those things. Everyone thinks that being a chef is just cooking, and at the end of the day, there's a heck of a lot more that goes into it. How many folks have come through the program to this point?
Yeah, we're really excited about this. So this month, we will have graduated a total of 100 participants in the program.
Gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. And so each year, the program cohort has been about 30 participants. And over the course of the program, they gain so much knowledge and support from each other, from the network, but also those who serve as their advisors.
So do you want to tell us about what we're doing here today in Chicago in the beautiful Kraft Heinz test kitchen?
Yeah, we're super excited. As I mentioned, the Legacy program is a virtual program, so we don't always get the opportunity to really get together. And I think you know more than anybody the importance of coming together. And so while the program is super beneficial in that way, I think this event that we have today called the JBF Legacy Network Meetup here in Chicago at Heinz's Food Lab is just a great way to kind of culminate the program. We're wrapping up this month, and so we have a number of advisors and advisees from not only this year's cohort, but previous cohorts who are flying in from all across the country.
For the restaurants, for the chefs who want to host stages, is there a sign up, or are you actually going out and just finding people who are already in the James Beard Network?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. When we thought about who we wanted to serve as a stage host, we looked at folks who were within the JBF community already. Many of them, or all of them, are either JBF award winning or nominated chefs. And we were really strategic about selecting them from across the country. We also wanted to make sure that diverse cuisines were represented, techniques. Chef Chrystal has an indigenous restaurant, and Chef Geoff is also of indigenous background. And so she has really focused in her local community on looking at and working with local farms to produce the ingredients for her restaurant. And that's something that's really important to Geoff, who served as the stagiaire. He's really interested in food sovereignty in his community. And so that was a really great pairing. So we are sort of looking at who the chefs are that we believe would be the best fit and can design a stage program that's unique to their restaurant.
Yeah, traditionally, stages and even your working life in a restaurant isn't necessarily scripted or has a criteria or an agenda for you in how you're going to grow in a position or what it is that you're going to be taught. What I love about what the James Beard Foundation is doing with this Legacy Network is they're setting guidelines and they're setting goals of what these stages and what these mentor-mentee relationships are supposed to be, so that people are verbalizing what it is that they want to get out of this and then achieving those goals with help from the chef. And I think that it's really smart and honestly something that's been lacking in our industry for a really long time. And that's, again, the part that really makes me think about how we want to treat people coming through our doors when they come in, and something that makes me wish that when I was a stage, there'd been a little bit more of a curriculum that I was following when I was coming into restaurants with no real knowledge of what it was that I was about to be doing. So I think this is a really positive step forward for our industry. We are here with Chef Geoff Kai, who is fresh off his stage with Chef Chrystal Wahpepah from Wahpepah's Kitchen. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people and tell them how you got into the industry and how you got into the stage program?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Guatsi Teopa, my name is Geoff Kai. I come from the Pueblo of Laguna. I'm Bighorn Clan, Little Turquoise Clan. And I'm from a little village in New Mexico called Siama. But yeah, I'm really excited to be sharing my story with you here today. I first got my start, in the kitchen in Flagstaff, Arizona, where I was in school. And so that's where I kind of spent like 4 years, just really getting into the deep and dirty of like a big kitchen space. And so that was kind of one of my first really big experiences that I really like carried with me to this day. And ever since then, I've kind of been doing like more pop-ups and kind of doing more like things that I'm really passionate about. And so, but since then I've kind of been blending a lot of different things together because I'm also a filmmaker as well. So I also have my master's in communication with a documentary studies emphasis. So I'm also a filmmaker, and I also kind of blend these two of like indigenous food sovereignty, documentary, and food, culinary industry, to kind of really blend these things together that kind of like express myself in the way that I feel like is really authentic to me.
I mean, it's wild. I've done a lot of stages. None of them have been involved in seed saving and that part. I'm so inspired by the experience that you had there and by what she's doing at that restaurant. I spoke to Jared Thomas, who just a few weeks ago completed his stage at Virtue in Chicago.
I'm from the Bronx, have Caribbean background, and I was working with Chef Erick Williams at the stage at the Verge restaurant. I had a week-long, intense training, teaching me about the kitchen, the back of the house, the front of the house, learning about customer service, learning about bussing tables, and I had a phenomenal time.
What was your favorite part about the stage?
My favorite part was actually being able to cook in a different city and being challenged by a chef that has won awards and have different restaurant and actually took the steps to becoming a big chef. One of my favorite things also was being challenged in my career, and I thought I knew a whole bunch of things in the culinary arts world, but culinary is bigger than just actually be able to cook in the kitchen. You have to know different parts of the kitchen, know how to, it's a whole bunch more than just cooking.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of information, very informative. And
that back in my day when I would do stages at restaurants, we would pretty much get to, peel some carrots, be in the basement, maybe we'd get to see some of the food. No one ever took the time to like treat it as a mentor opportunity where we learned about food costing and P&Ls and all the things that go into what it is that it takes to own and run a business. So I'm really interested in just how this program has evolved what staging really is, and I really love picking your brain about how it worked for you, because I'd honestly like to incorporate some of these things into my restaurant when we bring stages in. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the stage program? How'd you hear about it? How'd you go about getting hooked up with Chef Erick?
First and foremost, I'm a part of the James Beard Foundation, the Legacy Network. I'm alumni. And I seen an email from Shamika. She sent out to a whole bunch of us that we have an opportunity, that there's a stage in 3 different areas. One was in Chicago with Chef Erick. The other one was in Washington, D.C. with another chef, and the other one was in New York. And honestly, I looked at the different restaurants and I just went through their menu and, just to see like what this restaurant is about. And Chef Erick stuck out to me the most. And I just gave it a shot. I read his menu and the information, the questionnaires they gave. Like, I showed him that I was really interested in your restaurant. I really wanted to know more. And yes, within like 2 months later, I ended up getting selected. And I'm reading the email, I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like I did my research about a restaurant. They actually selected me to participate in a stage. I said, no way, So I was very happy, and then I just came up with different questions and different things that I would like to learn while I was there. So I would say it helped me in like several ways, like even shaping how I think and not being so hard on myself and actually being able to go for goals, being able to actually try different cuisines and learning underneath different chefs to, just to get myself well-rounded.
So with Chef Chrystal, what specifically did you go to her kitchen to learn, and what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, I'm really thankful to Shamika and the James Beard Legacy Network to send me the application to apply for Chef Chrystal at Wahpepah's kitchen, because I felt like truly that she's one of the premier indigenous food restaurants in the world, in my opinion, she really encompasses everything that is really tight to her core values of like community and tradition. And so I really got to experience that and really felt that for the time that we spent together in Oakland. And so I knew I was gonna spend a lot of time. I wasn't sure what I was gonna be doing in the kitchen, but I was just like trying to mentally and physically prepare myself. I was like, I live in the desert, in the high altitude, desert. So I was kind of like hiking every day and trying to like really, get myself, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but I just really wanted to be prepared to receive all that knowledge, to receive all the, all the vibes, all the medicine that's going to be coming my way, because it's going to be going on to my whole life journey of all that stuff. But mainly Chef Chrystal, she really wanted to show the community side of it, because it's really intergenerational. Her community connects deep with the intertribal friendship house. Mm-hmm. So that was a really big major part in indigenous history in America, because that's one of the focal points where people could go to after being part of like the relocation process. So it's kind of like where indigenous people could gather in community and share songs. And her father was kind of like in the leadership of that in the organization. And so since then we did community feeds. We brought food to the community for free. Like we also celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Intertribal Friendship House with Chef Chrystal, and we made blue corn cakes with like a berry compote on there. So it's just like everything is community oriented, that we knew that that morning we were preparing the cakes and having that moment with Chef Chrystal, which is like so iconic, just to be in that moment of like, this is what that good medicine, that good vibes, that good energy, that love that she puts into that food, and it's given out to the community, and it's received.
I love that you call food medicine. I couldn't agree with you more. It's what we nourish our bodies with. And I also love when the story behind the food has a deeper meaning, and it seems like all these crossroads meet up perfectly with this place and this chef. And I did a little bit of looking at her food before today, and it just looks spectacular, and it tells the entire story. And when we can taste that love and that medicine during that meal experience, I don't think anything's more exciting than that. What was the stage experience like for you?
I'm a prep guy. First started, like in my culinary world, I was a prep guy, so I was just like knew what to do. I was ready to get to work. So that's kind of what we started off with, the work of the gradual transition of like going from the prep, learning the basics of a few recipes, but also learning how everything gets stored and put away and gets prepared for the line. And then kind of making that transition into the line, and then also learning the front of the house, but also management as well.
Right.
But we also spent a few days in the community as well, and also just exploring some of the places that were really important to set the context for all the work that they do. So for example, we went to the Cultural Conservancy, which is like the farm that supports Chef Chrystal, and they grow like heirloom squash there, amongst other heirloom produce and things like that way. And we collected the squash, brought it back to the kitchen, and we harvested the seeds. And so those are heirloom seeds that are, generations old, and also going to be feeding generations ahead, And so that's why it's so important to like really be conscious of like all the great things that come with all the things that we're growing and the produce, to recognize that like the intergenerational aspect of it. So that was really cool to be actively seed saving, and those seeds are going back to the farm. And then also another great aspect that I thought had the opportunity to try was the acorn flour. And so when you Oakland acorns, but then also the acorns are it's a traditional food substance.
I just never put those two things together.
Right. I finally made that for me, that connection there too. And so she also works with one of the cultural centers there, and so they made like an acorn bite that encompassed like the youth and like, you know, the elders, and kind of rehydrating these connections and talking about food, because they were trying to do food exhibits for that cultural center. And so, you know, just recognizing that it's also like on Pomo land and all these other places that are important for the indigenous peoples in the area, but like recognizing that oaks and, you know, the oak trees and the acorns are an important part of that history. And so to taste there, Chef Chrystal had also had a crepe on the menu that I got to try, and then we also got to try some of the packaged items that they made using the acorn flour. So like, that's just an example of how long our food systems go.
So what's next for you now that you're done with the program?
So now that I'm done with the program, I am advancing my catering business, as far as now I'm taking like leap of faith and actually going to different corporations and actually presenting myself. I'm actually now starting to, I never did this before, but actually write a business plan. Like, I didn't know how important it is, how important it was to just write down a plan. And the plan doesn't have to go exactly how you read it, how it's written, but it's in a sense of direction. And now I have I'm not saying this to say this because we're on camera, I'm being serious. I have a clearer sense of direction of what I'm doing is correct, building my brand, wearing my clothes, selling my clothes, going to pop-up shops in different cities, and just expressing myself and just showing people like who I am and like, you know, what I could do. So right now, in a nutshell, just give me a little bit more time. Just give me a little bit more time. But in a few years, I hope, no, not that I hope, I will have a kitchen. It's not that I hope, I will have a kitchen. Don't have all the details, I'm gonna get there, but I will have one.
You never do until you do.
You know.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of mentors through my career. Specifically, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was from Aaron Silverman, who's the chef and owner of Rose's Luxury, Pineapple and Pearls, Little Pearl, all restaurants that I was a part of the restaurant group. But when we started really working together, he said that you should wait until you're in the industry for 10 years before you consider opening your own restaurant. At that point, I'd been in it for about 4. And I was like, I cannot imagine waiting another 6 years before I'm ready to open my own restaurant. And one morning after we opened our 3rd restaurant in DC, I woke up and I realized that I was ready to open my own restaurant, and I clocked it. I had been in the industry for almost exactly 10 years at that moment. So I really always appreciated that piece of advice. Other things that I've taken away from mentors is letting me behind the curtain of how they think about not just a single dish, but putting an entire menu together. So every single piece needing to fit together. And I think that's a hard thing when you're a cook, to kind of take your blinders off from your station and see the restaurant as a whole. And I always appreciated that. Chef's name is Travis Grimes. He was the head chef at Husk in Charleston. He was like my first true mentor that I just really wanted to emulate and be like him.
Taking what we do in a restaurant, and all you're doing is setting up inside of a space like this. We're not doing anything different than we do in a restaurant. That regular recipes are the same. We may plate it differently, but how we execute is the same way at the same time. And when we talk about the literacy behind that, I wish someone did teach me the consistency behind it, but I get on my team about being consistent, the same thing we do every single day, because people appreciate that.
Yeah, and cooking with love, which you can obviously tell in your food. It comes through.
I mean, that's huge. You know, I grew up around my grandmother, my grandparents who, you know, grew up on farms and, you know, take care of people. And I think that's the other biggest piece of it, is being able to take care of our own. You know, we miss that. We talk about family meal all the time in a restaurant, and this is nothing different than that. You know, these are, you know, our cohorts that have been traveling now. I heard some of them just came in this morning.
Yeah.
And being able to break bread for a second, have a conversation, you know, talk about things that are important, and being able to pair up with people and teams that are exemplifying that same thing. That's what we do. We get excited about having a meal. Like we came in, we said I prep, we went and grabbed something to eat, talk about the day, you keep it going. That's what it's about.
Food is really the big unifier, and historically it's been the thing that held communities together, and the harvest really meant something, and butchering an animal wasn't just something that happened, that was planned. And I really love that you're getting back to the natural kind of rhythm of things that I think that a lot of us have kind of forgotten about and gotten away from. But I also love that you learned how to butcher through just generations of being taught. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you and kind of your coolest, latest butchery story, I guess, if you will?
Sure. I mean, it means that every time that I stop and do this practice of caring for like a gift, which really is what butchery is, it's caring for this gift of life that we're given. It takes me back to these days that I spent with my grandmother or my great-grandmother, and not only the practice of doing it, but the lessons that went along with it. Like, I am not the harvester, I'm not the hunter or the person that goes out and gets the animals, but I really find a lot of enjoyment in processing and being able to take that out to my community and share. And so anytime that we do those practices, it's very ceremonial for us, and appreciating the gifts that, we were given for our community. So I was able to recently, like a couple days ago, got back from San Antonio, where I was able to go and support one of my advisees from the Legacy Network, Lucille from the Texas Tribal Bison Project. And they were on their 3rd annual bison harvest, but it was getting large, and she wanted some support in facilitating the process of, butchering, distribution, packaging of the bison to make sure it was done in a way that the community could receive it well. And I was like, absolutely, let me come down and help you. So I was able to physically and emotionally be a support for my advisee in a time that I was able to step aside after all of the work was done, very physically exhausted. A bison is not a small animal to have to care for. But to step back and to see all of the success of somebody that I have just been cheering for, just genuinely want to see succeed, it was very emotional for me as her advisor. Lucille is somebody that I look up to in the work that she's doing. So for her to trust me in my advice and my support, and to be able to share those moments of glory with me, that is what this is about.
So when we were speaking earlier, you had said that it started as a really small bison farm, and it's grown. Can you tell us a little about that? I'm really interested in this.
Yeah, so when I first met Lucille, we were part of the pilot cohort for the Legacy Network, and she was, in a mobile trailer, and she was acquiring land and had a very small herd. And so I just went down there, and they have recently purchased their 2nd plot of land. Their herd is 29 head right now.
How?
And they are able to now supply restaurants, community members. They have a WIC program. It's just amazing the things that she's been able to do to provide something where she really enjoys the work and loves it to her community.
I can imagine how proud you must be. That's
yeah. Even now I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. What an amazing
I'm getting a little
thing
misty
to witness.
thinking about it too. That's really, really amazing. How does training others affect the way that you cook? I think you and I were speaking earlier about the reciprocal nature of this program.
Everybody has something to teach you, and that they want to share with you. And for me, this is a journey ultimately that I'm on, and every person that comes in my path or shares with me that trusts my guidance or, is able to receive the education that I give them in a good way, that changes me and transforms my journey a little bit. You did talk to Geoff and you talked to Jared, I believe, and they're 2 of my mentees as well. And I was able to take Geoff to France with me, and we were able to cook at the US Embassy in Paris.
That's amazing.
Yes, and then we toured France and talked about the work that we do, our relationship as a mentor and a mentee, and after that, I was able to watch Geoff go and get his pizza business started.
Yeah.
All of these things, the inspiration is in that, in being able to witness these beautiful things happening in our community, the culinary community.
What are you doing now that you're done with the stage program? Have you started your own thing? Or are you?
Yeah, so now I do freelance. So I do catering and pop-up shops. So now I use the knowledge that they taught me and I applied it with myself, and I'm able to cook and get paid for it. Before I was doing a lot of cooking and I wasn't learning like the finance behind it. I'm just buying this and buying that, and I'm just making it, or a lot of time I would be undercutting. But learning about like the way how to do budgets, and I'm able to like maximize my profit.
What did you take away from that experience that you brought back home with you? I guess a different way to frame this is, what are you doing now that you're done with the stage program, and what did you take away from Chef Chrystal that you're incorporating into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so when I first went in that week, I was like, all right, kind of had this mindset of like gonna work on pizzas. Pizza's my thing right now. I'm trying to incorporate that into my next endeavors for the year. But now it's like evolved into remutuate the land. So giving the land back to like our indigenous matriarchs to make sure our lands are protected. Then we're also growing food for our communities that is healthy and nutritious and culturally reflects us as well. That is a culturally matched food for us.
One of the things that I really want to take away from what I saw with the stage program and talking to the cooks is having a little bit more of a curriculum ourselves when we're bringing stages in. Most of the time when we have a stage, it's someone who's applying for a job. Typically, we've had them just kind of jump right in with the prep of the day and then cook something for family meal, contribute to that. I think that us having a little bit more of a curriculum to that would be really helpful to see if they actually fit into our kitchen, but also giving something fulfilling to the stage, so it's not a one-way transaction. What has been your greatest takeaway of being a part of the mentor advisor program for James Beard?
It's twofold. It's being able to, work with other people in the industry, like now finally meeting them face to face. It's a virtual program and we all sat behind a screen and talked, and being able to then virtually talk to the team, like JBL put together like a WhatsApp, so we all keep in contact. That's watching people's successes, watching people's challenges, and then also bringing back to like my team. Like we're having conversations about, a lot of the classes that I sit in, like the financial literature, talking about what legacy means. Like he carries a legacy in his family, what he does. I carry a legacy in what my family does.
Virtues is known as a soul food restaurant. I've eaten there before. It's spectacular. What did you take away from that restaurant that you've brought into your career from like a culinary standpoint? I guess a different way to ask it is, what type of food do you feel that you specialize in, and what did you take away from Virtues that helped you there?
So with Virtue, one thing that I did take was the mashed potatoes and short ribs.
Yeah.
Like the way I was like, the prep time behind it, and just like learning how to do like mashed potatoes a different way compared to like what I was used to, and it was like it was more flavorful compared to how I first started doing it, and just learning how they find a lot of ingredients that they get from actual like farming. So it was just interesting, like the different sources that they got their food from, and now I'm working on myself from venturing out and finding different sources to get like my meat, my produce, and all of this brings quality to the meal. So that's one thing I would say that I definitely I'm taking from them. There's a lot of things I learned from Virtue. Even like how they prep their mac and cheese, learning about food preparation. Like I always knew about it, but they went in depth with food preparation to make sure you execute serving the food in a timely fashion and presentable.
Can you tell me anything about how she operated things that you took away from the experience that you thought were really special?
Yeah, I really enjoyed working with the staff. Like for me, it was, I also met another Koikome, another Laguna person out there who was on her chef staff. But no, just working with everybody and feeling that community and understanding like, the stuff that has to get done, but also having that little camaraderie and being able to share a laugh or two with everyone. But no, and that's another point I wanted to also make out too of rematriation is that Chef Chrystal, she has a good amount of female chefs and staff that worked with her, even her daughters as well. So that's just like really cool to see that they're taking on those roles and asserting that, and also showing that how they operate as a whole unit to the world, because they have people that come from all over the world, all over the country that come, and that's one of the first stops that it's like off the train metro there, and it's right there. It's like Wahpepah's kitchen. So I'm really proud of the staff there. They really show a great amount of dedication to their craft, and they understand the whole cultural context. They're not only in the kitchen, but they're also volunteering at the gardens, at Cultural Conservancy to help propagate those heirloom seeds. So it's all like a full process, and she really wants people that align with those core values to be on her staff, because they know how much love and that intention that goes into the food.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really inspired by this conversation. Thank you for taking the time to have it with me. Is there anything else you want to plug before we're all done here? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Adobe, but it's ADOB3, so it's Adobe with a 3.
Gotcha.
You can also find me on TikTok, Geoff Kai. JeoffKaiProductions.com is also where you can find me, because I'm also a filmmaker process.
Absolutely.
Have blast.
Geoff, enjoy your time in Chicago. Maybe we can go get a pie together while we're here.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Man. Let's enjoy the event.
All right, cool.
Cheers. What is the biggest takeaway that you've gotten from the program so far?
I think the biggest takeaway is that my family's bigger now. It's these relationships are so much farther than a Zoom meeting or even a day in the kitchen together. It's that, they are like my nephews. I'm invested, I'm in it. Let's do this and keep succeeding. And I'm part of that beautiful community through the James Beard Foundation. And I really believe in the programs and hopefully a living testament of the success when you invest in people who the Legacy Network was formed because we do struggle as BIPOC culinarians, not only in the kitchen spaces, but also as supply chain individuals. So being able to say, we see you, you're valuable. Those are things that sometimes are really difficult for us to get in this industry. So having that support, having that space, it was a wonderful catalyst for long-term relationships to develop. And I hope that if anybody can see, this is it working, this is the program working. We're about to have this beautiful meetup of people who cannot wait to share what has been happening in their lives. And I honestly am so excited to hear it. It's a great blessing to be able to witness it all.
How would one both apply to be in the stage program as a mentor and also as a trainee? Or I'm sorry if I'm saying that.
Yeah, that's okay. An advisor. Or mentor, I think is this most commonly referred to. So our JBF programs are all featured on our website at jamesbeard.org. We heavily promote our Legacy Network program on our website and all of our channels on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. And so potential participants can apply through our website. And those are going to be going out soon for the next year, this upcoming cycle for the program. And so that's where folks can learn more about it. We also have an industry intake forum. So anyone who's interested in the Legacy Network, but some of our other programs, we have another program called Chef Bootcamp for Advocacy, as well as Women Leadership Programs. Those are some of the other initiatives. They're all available on our website, and we heavily promote them on social media.
This whole experience was just really inspiring for me, and getting to talk to all the chefs and the mentees and the mentors and the folks from James Beard and Kraft Heinz was just such an amazing experience. I took a lot away from it, and it definitely has me reevaluating a lot of the ways that I view mentorship in my life. To catch up with any of the amazing chefs that we interviewed, their links and ats will be in the show notes. And please join us next time on Restaurant Roundtable for more insights from the entire group. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like and subscribe. We've got more awesome content coming your way. Also, please join the Kraft Heinz Away From Home newsletter. You can find it in the show notes. See you next time on the Restaurant Roundtable.